Good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Let's Talk Live. I am Brian, and this is LTL Media. I want to welcome everybody into the live show. So come on in, smash that like button. We're going to have a lot of fun today. And I want to bring a guest in. I don't like to kind of like talk. I like to bring my guest in right away, but I want to bring a guest in that's pretty well known on Twitter. We battle a lot of the trolls, have some really great posts, and puts out a lot of great information. And the Twitter handle is not Hailey. The person behind that goes by the name of Jason. And I actually had the opportunity to meet him down at the Morrissey standout a few weeks ago, where I had some interactions with the Delgado-Garcia family. And that was really the first meeting that I had with them. And Jason did some really good hosting and DJing that day and put together some really great speeches, and wanted to bring him in and get kind of his perspective on everything that has been happening here in Norfolk County, and just hear what he has to say. So let's bring Jason in. We were chatting a little bit backstage, but Jason, not Hailey, welcome back to the show.
Hello.
Well, welcome to the show. The first time.
It's the first time, but you know, I already feel at home, so that makes perfect sense.
Good. Yeah, I have had so many people on. I always forget like who did my show, who didn't do my show. But no, thanks for doing this. And I saw you on Mike Young Jerk show the other day. I know you've been up there a couple of times. I was like, I got to get him over here. He has a lot of good insight as to what's going on. So craziness here in Norfolk County. It just never seems to look like it stops.
It's true. It really is. I kind of, you know, that standout on the 13th, that really kind of showed me. I thought about it a lot, and I said, we have all these different kinds of cases here. They're all linked together by this one thing. And even though, Enrique's case isn't in Norfolk County, right? But but it's still kind of, it's emblematic of all of the other things that are happening there, in the sense that we have all of these cases where the police can't investigate themselves, or they refuse to do it properly. So Norfolk County is really kind of like a microcosm of what's happening across the country, but it's happening in such an extreme way there. Makes it easy for people like you or people like me to be able to go there and actually give real world examples to people of, hey, I know that I'm a police supporter, right? Yep. So I say, I know that you people out there, my friends who are also police supporters, don't think that this stuff happens. Well, take a look, because this is where it's happening. And that's why I don't mind making the drive. I'll be there next week, a couple of days. To me, it really is so important to tell this story so that people can recognize the signs of the things that are happening in their own towns and in their own counties, in their own states,
Yeah, and that's the kind of the benefit that we have here in Massachusetts, is that it's small enough where if something's going on in a local area, you can be in there in an area of Massachusetts within like 3 hours. If you're on the western part of the state and you need to come over towards the ocean, 2.5, 3 hours, you're here. So you can kind of track all this stuff and go around. And that's what's kind of the benefit of being here in Massachusetts, as opposed to like you're in Texas or California. An event goes on there. Guess what? You're taking a 6-hour drive to get up to the north of the state or whatever it may be. So we do have a benefit here, being able to fight back against these, injustices that go on. And we're pretty central to and can be there in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I think even all of New England, it really is kind of New England is about the size of most other states. I mean, most of the large states, I should say. I mean, Rhode Island, I think Rhode Island barely qualifies as a city based on the size, I actually had an opportunity to do once in my life a little bit of stand-up comedy, and I did a 30-minute set. It was actually at a bachelor party where they bussed in people from Rhode Island, because the groom was from Rhode Island here to Connecticut, and they had a busload of strippers and men from Rhode Island that were coming to the thing. And I did I basically shit on Rhode Island for the entire set. And at the end, there was a guy that came up to me, and he was smiling, and he shook my hand, and he said, "You're pretty funny." And I said, "Thank you very much." And he said, I'm from Rhode Island. And I said, "Oh, that's great." And he said, "My son's a state trooper in Rhode Island." And I said, "That's amazing." And he said, "You know what?" And he looked at me and he said, don't ever effing drive through Rhode Island. He got real serious on his face. That guy turned out to be the funniest guy in the room that day, not me. So
That's awesome. Glamis says, no picking on my home state. I love growing up in Rhode Island. You know what? It's funny. I really love Rhode Island. I love going down to Newport, going to the bridge and, going over the bridge and going kind of in that little area. It's almost like you feel like you're kind of going into like a different, I don't know, a different country or something. And it's just such a fun place to go over. So if you've ever spent time there, it's
me too. I'm actually, it was all in good fun. I'm a fan of Rhode Island. Narragansett is such a great area down in there. You get the best calamari probably in the world down in there. It's not it's no joke. So I'm a fan of Rhode Island, but to Glamour, all I would say is it's not my fault that your state mascot is Mr. Potato Head. All right. So I don't know where we're gonna.
All right. Well, let's talk
Rhode Island, the suburb of Foxwoods. All right, let's go.
The suburbs of Foxwoods. All right, let's talk about some of the things that are going on here in our state. Obviously, we're going to get into the Enrique Delgado-Garcia case. We know, it's been kind of public and outs there now that, I worked on this website. I got a billboard up. Like I said, it's just like, you know what? I get it and I love it. I love doing the standouts. I think it's fantastic. It brings camaraderie on the ground. Everybody's standing out for social cause. And I'm just sitting there and I'm going, all right, I can make a sign. I can stand there. And I made a banner. I had a banner out there at one time. It wasn't doing well. It kept falling over and everything. And I said, you know what? I got to do something really big to get some eyes on this fucking case. So I did some research, started searching around, and I worked with a great rep through the company, Lamar. I'm not advertising for them, but,
right.
And he listened to my story. And I said, look, this is what I have going on. I'm not sure if you guys do this type of work, these social campaigns. And he said, well, just pitch it to me. So I pitched him the idea. I showed him the graphic. We came back a couple of times. They said, hey, you know what? Creative and management said, if you just put, paid by, who's sponsoring it. And they did it. And it worked out really well. And, I wanted to do it kind of behind the scenes and then just kind of splash it. And, and it made the impact that I wanted. It finally got up on the local news. It got it generated back into the ether, and I just want to get some eyes on this because it's not almost Saturday will be 90 days without answers.
Well, so it's real interesting. So I'm sure you've gone and actually physically seen your billboard now, right? And
yeah, it's right up the street from my studio, which is pretty badass.
So I have to say that I'm a fan of billboards. I designed the Free Karen Reed billboard with Nick Rocco.
Oh, you did?
Not a lot of people know that, although it has come out recently. So,
awesome.
So I put on the long before anyone knew who I was. Before when I was Hailey Walbrecht didn't even basically exist until December 26th or so. We're getting real close to the 1 year anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just myself, Jason Broyles, and I was on Facebook and talking to people in the Facebook group. And I had a separate Twitter account that wasn't Hailey Walbrecht that no one will ever get out of me. And they were raising money for the billboard. And then, I saw Nick posting one day and he was saying, sorry, there's a delay. Like the person that's helping us is sick. And I just DM'd him out of the blue.
Yeah, I'll do it.
And, but when that billboard came out, I'll never forget in September when I had a chance to get down there for business, and I took a little detour just to head over there, and the feeling is almost indescribable when you actually see it. It's such a cool thing. I took a picture of myself under the billboard, and I made a meme that said, "I don't get to Foxborough much, but when I do, I like to express myself." And I pointed I pointed at the sign that said Free Karen Reed, and I posted that in the group. And it was funny because Nick and I were the only two people that knew that I designed the billboard. So like it was literal. And we didn't tell anyone. I just announced it on a live stream, a month or two ago, because at the end of the day, like kind of like what you're doing here, where, this isn't about me and it's not about you. It's about Karen Reed and it's about Enrique and it's about all of those families that were in Norfolk on November 13th. And it really is kind of, people ask me about it and I say, this is the least that we can do. We to take our time and our talent and in your case, your money, at least, I designed the billboard, but I didn't pay for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I just think that it's kind of an amazing thing to do. And when people ask, I can't go to a standout, what can I do? Well, you can help make things like this happen. You see you see Brian's Cash Apps down at the bottom of the thing in his Venmos, and making donations helps these things happen. None of us are, I think that they have this impression that we're grifters and that we're getting rich and that we're doing these things, but none of us are. I mean, Turtle Boy probably makes a decent amount of money. I'm not going to talk about it, but we're not, I don't even have a YouTube channel yet. And I laugh because people are like, "You're a grifter." And I'm like, yeah, I got a $20 check from Twitter the other day. Amazing. Yeah. I'm up to, for an entire year, I think I've made $237. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, like that's always been like the biggest fight in all of this too, is that like, oh, you're making money. And I'm like, yeah. And Boston 25 makes money. And Ted Daniels makes money, and all these Fox News or CNN anchors, they all make money, and there's nothing wrong with what we do, and there's nothing wrong with being monetized and being paid for your work and time. I mean, I have to sit here, I have to come up with a show. I don't have a producer. I don't have I don't have people that write my shows. I don't have people that do graphics. I mean, I come up with everything here, and then it gave me the ability to, because I took time, and I'm not married, and I don't have kids, and I took a lot of my own money to move into a studio and do this and build this out, because I wanted to further my dream to be able to do this. And then I said, well, yeah, the channel is going to make money. There's going to be stuff that came in. I've given a lot of away to Karen Reed's cause, and I said, well, what else can I do? Like, I want to do something big and impactful. This is a case that I've been talking about, kind of rattling the cage on it for, the last almost 90 days. And I said, well, let's just do a fucking billboard. Let's put it out there. Let's give back to the community. Let's give back to this family. And, and I'm very happy to be able to do that. And I'd love to fund more things. I'd love to do more campaigns and things like this, because, I think sometimes things here, and especially here in Massachusetts, it'll splash, like we saw at the very beginning of Enrique's unfortunate death. We had that news cycle that splashed really quick, but look what happened. It got dropped.
It's true. And I didn't mean to give any credence to the argument that it's not okay to make money, because we're all trying to do that, right? We're all,
sure.
I wouldn't be launching a YouTube channel. I wouldn't be doing these things if I wasn't saying, hey, I think that I can actually make a business case for this. I can make this work, because guess what? I still have to pay my mortgage. I still have to feed my family. I'm fortunate in my position that my wife takes care of other things very well, but I'm trying to do this as a business, and I have another business that I run. Mm-hmm. And so for me, the way that I look at it, aside from all of this that we're doing to give back to the families and do all these things, local news doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but every one of these towns used to have, we still see it. The Fall River Reporter is still there. Obviously, we see what Jess is doing.
Jess crushes it.
But if you look around, every one of these towns had a newspaper. Every one of these towns had a newspaper, and then the largest nearby town had a section, and they actually had staff that went out and reported on the local stories of the day. That's almost completely gone. So we're at the point now where you'll get the larger stations will try to cover it, the Boston 25 or whatever. But you saw on the 13th, they were out there. I interviewed with them. I know a whole bunch of people interviewed with them. And, we ended up by getting mixed up with the story of what happened in court that day. And, if you got 20 seconds out of all of those people there all day, and I'm not blaming them.
Yeah.
But the point is that's where local media used to kick in and pick up and do things like that. And frankly, we are the media now. It doesn't exist, and this is how people are going to get their news. Whether you're tuning into a YouTube channel based on a topic, someone just does. You have LawTube, right? So they're just doing true crime, or based on a geographic area, whatever it is. People can. What's the word that I'm looking for? People can go out and curate their own news, what they want to see and what's interesting to them. It's a little bit different. That's the beauty of YouTube and the beauty of these platforms. And we get to pick up the pieces, because basically local news has been abandoned, and it's people like us that are going to come out and say, I'm in this region, I'm going to report on these issues. And if your inbox is anything like mine, I get people saying, you really need to look into this case, or you need to write about this story, you need to do this every single day. I mean, I probably get 20 tips a day from people either on stories that I'm already working on, stories that I've already published, or stories that people say you really need to look at this because there's this injustice happening somewhere.
Yeah. And, and right there, I mean, if you look at the bottom, of my graphic, I mean, what does it say? The future is independent media, and I fully believe that. I fully believe that the future is independent media because we've lost that connection. We've lost the connection with the communities because, in my opinion, mainstream media is going to grab that bigger story and uplift it. And, because that's really what's bringing people in. And I don't think that they do focus on, communities anymore. And it takes people like us. And the thing that's really great about this platform, being able to be here on YouTube, gee, I feel like we're at a YouTube summit, but to be able to hear on YouTube it's unfiltered. It's live. There's no producers on our ears. We're spitting off our own opinions, and the audience is going to come in and they're going to agree or disagree. Where the news is so filtered and watered, it's going to carry a narrative. It's going to have a narrative built to it.
It's true. And there's a different skill set required, right? So, if we were sitting in Boston 25's newsroom or whatever, we would have to look a certain way. We would have to talk a certain way. Right. We wouldn't be able to cover controversial topics in quite the same way that we can here. I like this format. It's a little bit more real and dirty and rough, but in a good way, in the best of ways, because we can go places that maybe they can't. And and there's this whole problem is what's replaced the lack of local news are press releases from your local government. Mm-hmm. So you're getting them from the police department, from the courts, from the, district attorney's office, and the news has gotten really good at saying we don't have to pay for these big staffs if we can just read these press releases as they come in. And it completely abandons the whole idea of the media being the fourth estate. We're the ones that are out here as the gatekeepers to say, oh no, you pushed a little too far there. And without that, you see things like Karen Reed. Imagine if Karen Reed didn't have all that money.
Right.
Imagine if just en route, I was talking to Jen, and we're talking about they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars by now on lawyers and on doing things that are, if they didn't have that money, just en route would just have gotten killed. The story would have been that he deserved it and he was crazy, and that's the last thing that we would have heard about it. But now we're getting all these details because there are people that could, she stood up for her family. All of us are standing up for Karen Reed. It really is this interesting dynamic of how people get their news and how the real stories are being told. So when people try to say, call Turtle Boy, he's a blogger, I told him, I said, hey, listen, but of course they're saying to get under his skin. I said, listen, when someone says you're a blogger, you say, you're damn right I am. And bloggers are the journalists today.
Yeah, you're right. It's the wave of the future, because where the people are going to get down there on the street. And I always love it too, because I had a run in with one of the main, I love this shit. You get down there in the courthouse, and I love getting kind of in the mix of it. So when, especially when I'm out there with the Karen Reed, Karen will come down, her defense team's walking out to get in their car to leave, and you get all the cameras running, and, I'll be in there with my little iPhone, grabbing the moment and hearing the quote at the end of the day. And you got all these big lens cameras that's trying to push me out of the way. And I'm just able to get right in there. I've had a run in with the same camera guy, believe it or not, like months apart. Okay. That the last time I was down there, I had Yannetti was given a quote. He gave about a minute and a half quote. And they were asking him about one of the recent hearings. And believe me, there's been so many of them recently, I can't remember which one it was. But anyway, this camera guy, I don't know who he's with or whatever, puts his hand on my shoulder and goes, sir, can you please move? And I didn't say anything. I kept my composure. I got the shot, was flawless. And then I turned around and looked at him. I said, don't you ever put your hand on me again. Because you know why? One, I didn't ask you to do that. Two, don't want you touching me. And three, I have every single right as an independent journalist to be here in this moment. If you are upset that I got my shot, then get here a little bit earlier and you'll be able to do it.
Amen. And I just last night, I paid for my check for the Society of Professional Journalists, and it's the same organization that they belong to, and I don't care. Like, I don't care that I didn't go to J school, and I'm not gonna follow all your little unspoken rules. I always laughed at that whole concept of how they were doing the chairs outside the courtroom the night before, and the line sitters and all these things, and Grant coming up with his own, this is how it is. This is how it's gonna be.
How dare you?
How dare you? You know, and I just say, why does anyone listen to him? Because I'm just gonna walk right past him and say, oh, you just went away to go use the restroom, so you still have your spot? No. Like, no. What are you gonna do? I'm not Jess Machado. You're not gonna intimidate me physically. Like, no, sorry. So I'm all for camaraderie and doing things, but it works both ways. Like, don't try to play down to us that you're the independent media, so you're the scum, you know. Guess what? I break more stories than most of them.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
Yeah, I know. And we'll talk a little bit about that offline, but I got some context to add here, like a little after the show. But let me just bring this up. So if anybody hasn't seen, I was really proud of this. I launched the Billboard the other day on Sunday at 1 p.m. It's in a regular rotation now, which is great. And I love all the people that have been driving by and sending me pictures. I actually haven't seen it at night yet, so I'm going to get out there. Obviously not tonight. Well, I'm going to be actually going up that way, but it's going to be rainy. I won't be able to see how clear it is, but it'll be cool to see that tonight. So I'm kind of waiting to see this. But anyway, Boston 25 picked this up yesterday. I thought this was great. New Billboard calls for justice for Mass State Police recruit who died after a training exercise. It just goes on to say, a new Billboard is calling for justice for Enrique Delgado-Garcia, a Massachusetts State Police recruit who died after training exercise. Let's get the story straight here. At the state, that's why people come to channels like this. We give the facts. And in September, we spotted the Billboard on Route 1, not far from the Gillette Stadium. It was paid for LTL Media, an independent outlet. It just goes on to talk a little bit about the story here. Owner LTL Media, of course, Brian Bardsley, says that you put up the Billboard to raise awareness about the case and bring it back into the spotlight. He said recently he met with the family of the Delgado-Garcia and felt this could be a Christmas gift for them. And it was, and I announced that, you know, it is their holiday gift. The bill will be going up through the holidays, and we're going to work on extending it. I'm going to work on extending it. I'm working with my rep right now. But let me just play this little spot. We got a little spot too, which was cool. If I can get it to work. Of course, it never wants to pull up. How can I get in there? There we go. Let's go back.
Exercise at the State Police Academy. A new Billboard is calling for justice for Enrique Delgado-Garcia, the Mass State Police recruit who died after a training exercise at the State Police Academy in September. Take a look. We spotted the Billboard on Route 1, not far from Gillette Stadium.
It's great.
It says it's paid for by LTL Media, an independent outlet. Now, Family Tells 25 investigates. They're still waiting for answers desperately. Shortly after Enrique died, we learned an independent investigator would examine this case. That was also in September. Enrique was just weeks shy of graduating the academy when he suffered some medical crisis during a boxing training exercise. Sources familiar with the investigation tell 25 investigates Delgado-Garcia suffered broken bones, missing or damaged teeth, and a spinal injury. For 25 investigates, I'm Carrie Kavanaugh.
Yeah. So it's just no, because the way that I look at this is not a boxing training exercise. This is not a medical crisis. If it was, if any of that, and I'm just using, you know, my common sense here. Okay. If it was any of that, and we've heard there is video of this incident. Okay. If it was any of that, then why would there not be a statement? A couple of days later, we have investigated. This is what it is. This is what happened. But now there's total silence for 90 days. So any regular person looking at this saying 90 days ago, no reports, everybody's being quiet. I think there's a lot more going on here to this case.
Well, and not only that, but you see delays like this. It's kind of public relations 101, right? We talked about the soundbite culture where you have the news story and 24 hours it's out of the news. The people that hate your Billboard the most are the people that want this story to go away. And the longer they wait to release and just diddle out their report, it means that you have this situation. And Scott McGinnis's point here is amazing.
I love it,
because we can't get Andrea Campbell and we can't get Maura Hailey to talk about any of it.
No.
Because, I always said as we go along in these cases, at some point, the political calculation is going to be enough that it's going to tip it over the edge. But you know what? They need those union endorsements to get elected.
Mm-hmm.
And they apparently think they need them more than they need us. So you have this situation where you have the sitting governor of a state. Like, I live in Connecticut. I'm not even a fan of our governor, but I can tell you that if something happens with the death of a police officer, he's on TV for 3 days straight. He's there. The funeral becomes like a 6-hour live TV presentation. Like, there's all of this stuff that's happening. And like, where is Maura Hailey?
Yeah.
And you look at Campbell, and look at the Justin Root case. She was his city councilor. She literally was a city councilor. Her own brother died in a similar circumstance. And you have this scenario where she was great talking to Jen Root ahead of time. They have these conversations and everyone was excited. I mean, I wasn't excited, but the people involved in this were excited when she became the attorney general, because they said, we finally have a voice in state government who's going to do something for us. And now the lady won't return her call. So, because the bottom line is once they get there, they figure the only way they're going to hang on is by getting this support of the ever powerful state police union that, in the vacuum from the fall of organized crime in Massachusetts, has swept itself into power. And now they hold the cards,
Yeah. And then I just look at it this. I mean, obviously you're seeing people down here are concerned. Okay. We're going into 90 days. We're rattling the cage. We've put this billboard up now, asking questions from the people, and there's still no statement. Come out and just say something like, hey, we understand your concern. We're actively still investigating. Just something. And there's been no statement by the state police, but yet, and listen, and I don't even really want to go there, but yet, they're tweeting and they're going, there was a tweet the other day, yesterday, I believe, they were honoring someone that had passed away, 30 years of service. And I think it's great, but it's like, you doing that, but just let's put some statement out here. Let's just say, we understand the community's concern about this case. And, yes, we're still active. There's nothing. There's been nothing.
No, it's true. And I thought, I was actually kind of waiting to see what happened with the new state police colonel, because their public relations arm has been horrendous, because what they do is they will literally post about the most ridiculous things, make sure you have, snow brushes in your car. That's great. Everyone should make sure that. Everyone should make sure that. But how are you preventing, these state police recruits from dying? Like, maybe you could address that, because at the end of the day, if you live in Massachusetts or New England and you don't know to have a snow brush in your car, well, you're a moron. Or you're a moron like me that remembers after the first snowstorm and you had to drive down the road, wiping off the snow as you go. But
check your tire pressure. Make sure your battery is good.
Right. They're gonna put out all of these ridiculous, and every time they do, it just feels insulting, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, and then I just go in there and I make a comment on their tweet and go, all right, this is great. I love it. And you probably see it. But can you tell us some information about Trooper Enrique Delgado-Garcia? Let's find out about that.
I had one of those. I have to go back in my analytics, because I have one of those that ended up by being like one of my most popular tweets of all time. Was a comment that I made into one of their things that was like sheer ridiculousness. And it got picked up somewhere, because that's one of the things that I was hearing about from people in my real life that know me. Most of them I don't hear from about this case or about what's happening, but the people were like, were you talking to the state police on the, in a comment? Yes, I was, as a matter of fact. Hi, Beatrice.
Yes, Beatrice, hello.
I just laugh because I'm just like, it's the weirdest things that, that you didn't plan for that become the viral moments. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
sure.
Damn it. Will you go read this other tweet over here that was great?
Yeah.
But it really is. We're in like bizarro land. I don't know how else to describe it, because it's like pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, right?
It's Wizard of Oz.
It really is, and I can't figure out for the life of me why somebody doesn't just say, "Oh, this would look good for me politically if I addressed this, or if I did this, or if I gave even just give us some lip service, you know, to gas us up a little bit to make us think you're doing something." Because what's happening now is it's almost like torture. It's demoralizing because you have people out here that are fighting and doing things like that, and they just completely ignore you. Well, they're not going to be able to when billboards go up. I can tell you that right now. So congrats on that.
Yeah, and you know, and thank you, and I appreciate that. And I think that I remember one of the combined standouts in Boston. I think there was a rep that came out and actually spoke to a lot of the people that were down on the ground. I can't remember the situation, who the rep was, but they were like really pro Karen Reed, you know, and they were saying, hey, you know, I hear you, I understand you, but we need those people when they are with us on those, with the ground force down there. You got to start putting your money where your mouth is. Yeah, you can say it all day. Hey, I'm with you. But you got to start getting in there and rattling some of these politicians in there, or going to the hierarchies that control all of this, you know, all these unions or whatever. Get in there and start, you know, making a splash. You know, if you got to work for the people, you know what I mean? And that's why I always say everybody gets wrapped up in national elections. They're always so worried about who the president's going to be. Worry about the people that are running your communities. If they're not working for you, get their asses out of there. I mean, perfect example. And everybody in this chat room knows who it is. Just look at what's happening in Canton. You know, that just watch their select board meetings. That'll tell you of a very dysfunctional town. Absolutely 100% dysfunctional town.
Then you could watch the police audit commission, and it's even worse. You know, so there was, I'm just looking right now. I'm just looking something up because there was, if I could remember my own username, I'd be faster. I was interacting with a state rep from Mass yesterday or the day before, where we were talking about that, where someone actually came out and said, "What in the world is going on?" His name was Nick. I don't have the last name. I'll get it, but yeah, what in the world? He's like, "What in the world is going on?" It looks like the witness intimidation statute is being abused. And I quote tweeted him and I said, "Hey, while we're at it, let's take a look at a reporter's shield law, and let's take a look at, you know, there's a whole bunch of common sense reforms. How about we address the wiretapping law to get up into the, you know, into the current century where we can say we don't need the state to protect people from embarrassing things that they say to other people in phone calls. You know, Mass, like every other state, should be a one-party consent state, because if I'm on the phone, and there's a case in September where a woman recorded a phone call because she was being threatened by her abuser, and they actually brought charges against the woman,
of course,
and she ended up by not testifying in the case against her abuser because she had to assert her Fifth Amendment privilege to not incriminate herself. Like, is that what the legislature thinks their role is? Is to shut up battered women? You know, and we had this situation yesterday. Let's be real. We had this situation where Lindsay Gaetani called, and the very first thing that you see from the Kate Peters of the world and these people is, that's wiretapping. Yeah. So let me get this straight. It wasn't, by the way, it doesn't even meet the legal definition, because the woman said, if you're going to threaten me, I'm going to record this phone call. And then she proceeded to record the phone call, but it doesn't even matter, because the go-to for the people that want to injure you, if you just had someone call you, it was alarming, that audio. When you have someone call you and say, I'm going to come to your house and murder you and your children, and you have to worry about if you're going to be in trouble because you recorded it to have evidence.
That's wild.
That law's got to get reformed.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing about, like, if you break into someone's house, right, and you're the perpetrator and you slip and fall, you can sue the homeowner because you slipped and fall and broken your arm. You were going in there to either cause malicious activity to them in their body or to rob their house. And if they slip and fall and break their ankle or their arm, they can sue you. It's insane.
So you look at that wiretapping law, though, and you say, okay, I could see that people would try to make good faith arguments on both sides about eliminating it and making it a one-party consent state. Right. I'm in favor of that. But how is there going to be any opposition from any politician to say, hey, can you just insert a clause in the law saying that this this statute, doesn't apply if you're recording somebody threatening your life.
You, right?
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
should there be
Hello?
We can't make an exception for these victims. I think it needs to. I hate to even suggest that, because I think that they need to amend the law to make Massachusetts a one-party consent state in general. From a journalistic perspective.
Yeah.
But at least do something. Don't charge women who are recording people threatening their lives. Like, it's ridiculous.
Let me just get to a couple of these chats that came in. So Joseph, thank you for being a 2-month member. And I see a lot of Ghost Squad members in here, and I appreciate your support. It keeps definitely keeps the channel running here. He says, thank you for all your efforts. I appreciate that. He sent a $3 super sticker. Thank you so much. And then Christy says, so proud of you to continuing these efforts to bringing light to the lack of information on the investigation. And that it goes back to our bigger conversation. The overall conversation in here is just, really rattling the cage in these cases, not letting them fizzle out in the mainstream media, and just keeping it going is just important. And I just want to recognize a $25 Cash App from Tina. She says, to help with the cost of the billboard, keep up the good work. And I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I love that. And when you brought up that story about the billboard from Boston 25, they said, we discovered this billboard. And I just laughed when I read that story. I'd already read it. And I just laughed when I read that. I'm like, finally, the news discovered something. You know what I mean? You have this. That was just a thought that came to my head, where I'm like, normally we discover everything and we hand it to you. So thank God you actually went out and drove down the road and looked up.
What can we find today? Oh,
I know. You observed this large billboard on the side of the road. Thank God you didn't do it as a small, like a lawn sign, because they never would have seen it. Oh
God, they would have never saw it. So and then I have a website that I built here. It's Justice for Enrique, and it's not the number 4, it's FOR. Enrique. And again, we have the QR code that goes directly to their GoFundMe link. So if you have your phone, you can just click on that, go directly to their GoFundMe. I wrote a little bit of a little story of what's going on, the truth as to what's going on here. And you can read about that. I wanted to make something simple. We have the counter without answer. I love this, the rolling counter. And awesome. Then, demand answers. Very simple website. You can contact all 3 of these entities here. And then if you wanted a clickable link, you can click on this. It'll bring you to another page, and it goes right to the family's GoFundMe link. So
that's awesome.
All good stuff.
Really
Simple
well done.
Simple.
Really well done. That's exactly what you need,
All you need. Just an awareness, a little bit of awareness.
Right.
So yeah, it's funny, talking about this, we, especially corruption, talking about Worcester, up in that area, we heard the Justice Department finds civil rights violations by Worcester Police Department in the city of Worcester. And when I read through this and heard about it, it is insane, the things that they're being, what they found in this investigation. Goes on to talk about, excessive force, unjustified use of tasers, police dogs, and strikes to the head. And going back to your wiretapping as well, there was just a case not too long ago, and I know Scott's here in the chat. I remember him talking about this. They got caught wiretapping, not having permission to wiretap during some drug stings that they were involved with. So it's like, geez, all this stuff coming down on the Worcester Police Department. You have Enrique Delgado-Garcia, Karen Reed, just en route, all these cases. And I'm just wondering, you see that the Reed case now is moved till April, supposedly April 1st. We're going to hear more about that tomorrow, what date. I'm just wondering, is the DOJ, FBI kind of sitting back and just saying, come on, baby, let it all keep coming? Because all this is going to point to in one direction, Morsi and above. What do you think?
I do. I think, when you see the trolls love to say, well, they're not coming, the DOJ's not coming. But this, especially the now actually appointed U.S. attorney for the District of Massachusetts, his office has been amazing. And what we see is they're doing the work, and they're out there, and all of these things that they're closing the loop on, that they're announcing every day, as you see that they're bringing these cases forward. These are all investigations that took months and years too. Because that's what they do. That's what the DOJ does. That's what the FBI does, is they actually build a case. They start from the beginning. I talked about this on Mike's a little bit. I talked about it with Aussie Insider yesterday. They actually you have these federal agents that actually build a case. Everything they do from the beginning is, what evidence do I need to collect to build this case in court to get a conviction? The local police are supposed to do that, but let's face it, it doesn't really happen in that direction. There's a lot more detecting going on where they're trying to figure it out. And from the, and they tried, the case is almost secondary to them figuring out what happened. The FBI, the case is primary from the moment that they start an investigation and they have an inkling of what has occurred. They start to build a case toward whatever the charge is going to be or whatever they're going to present to the federal grand jury. So they're not done. They're coming.
Yeah.
They're coming in some way. This wasn't for nothing. They don't spend the kind of money that you spend in an investigation. And for that period of time, they don't hire ARCA to come in and give their opinion on a case like this and testify in a trial or do any of these things. Like, they're coming.
Mm-hmm. I don't usually like to do this when I have a guest on. I just want to pause for a second because it's getting a little distracting to me. It's distracting the chat. Nixon, I hear you. Okay. I've gotten your message. I will reach out to you afterwards. We can talk about the website. Right now, I have a guest on. This is the first time they're on, and I want to pay respect to the guest and the people in the chat that want to interact with this conversation. So if you could just please be a little bit more sensitive to the conversation. I want to keep the conversation rolling here. I will reach out to you. I've gotten your messages. I appreciate it. We can talk websites after, but my campaign is what it is right now. I've paid for a billboard. I've paid for a website. This is out of my pocket. I wanted to do this as a gift to the family, and the billboard is just going to stay the way it is. And I respect that you're working and helping with the family. But we'll talk. We'll have our conversation when that is valid. But let's just continue with this conversation today. So yeah, I mean, and I'm sorry, I get a little distracted.
No, actually want to hop in on that for a minute, which is like it. I think that what people don't understand is everyone should do what they think that they should do. Like, if you want to do something to help the family and you want to do something to go out there and make your own sign. I wish everyone would put up a billboard about this case, frankly. If we could have 30 billboards about Enrique put up across the Commonwealth, that would really send a message. So if there are other people who have ideas and someone else wants to do a website and you want to do things, that's great. I think you should do it. I think,
and that's why we do multiple standouts and we have different events.
Right.
People cooperate in these things all together. I'm not nixing it, no pun intended. But yeah, I think just everything helps in this, and that's why we have a different variety of shows and creators that do things in their own way. And I get it. I get it. We'll have a conversation. Maybe we can collaborate on something. And I want to try to do everything I can to help. My main focus right now is keeping this billboard alive, keeping this message out there, making sure that when people drive by, they understand what's going on. And like I said, it's a quarter mile from the Foxborough State Police Barracks. So I want to make sure that when they drive by all the time, they're understanding what's going on too. And I'm going to try to continue to finance this for another month after the campaign runs. Again, I'm working with the rep and I'll take care of that. So
I think that's great. And I think that and some of the people who are trying to go out and do their own thing, like maybe helping crowdfund the next month after that. Like there are things that we can all do in order, and all of these cases need all of the attention we can get. We cannot give these cases enough attention. Karen Reed, Sandra Birchmore, you look at that case and guess what? We're not done. This isn't a case of we've gotten this one guy. There are other cops who groomed other kids. There are other, people in that Police Explorer program who were molested.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that were in that program.
And it's not just that one police officer. We already know some of the other names. And so there's work to be done. And trust me, if you are local and you can get to a standout, do it. If you're not, there's a million ways you can help. So if you're looking for ways, feel free to hit Brian up or hit me up on Twitter, because I can definitely tell you we need the help. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can write letters. You can, we have cases, not just these. We're talking about Worcester County. We have the Molly Bish case where, the DA just simply will not cooperate with that family. That's They have their way to do it. Every time I have a chance to talk about that case, I do, because I want to say we actually have a DA in Hampden County, Galini in Hampden County, who actually paid for some specific software and has this investigative program to go after cold cases. He wants the case. So Joe Early, why not share the credit?
Right.
This isn't about your political aspirations.
Right.
You have a guy who has done an amazing job solving the Lisa Ziegert case and Agawam mass. There's all of these cases that were cold cases that his office seems to be able to plow through. They do a really good job, their cold case unit, at going after these things. Give them the Molly Bish case. Literally right. It's right on the line. It's right on the county line anyway. Geographically, it makes sense for them to do it. Give them the case, because these people will solve it.
And that happens a lot. And I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go.
Yeah. And that happens a lot in certain cases too, that, where a case may be unsolved or something that goes on for quite a while, the certain investigators that might be on top of this, and they've worked with it for a couple of years, and they may get transferred to a different department, or they retire, whatever. Or they'll just get to a point where they go, you know what, we've gone as far as we can go. Maybe hand this to a fresh set of eyes and see if they see something different in all of this. That's why, I love doing that too. I did that specifically with the Chelsea Grimm case that I was covering, a missing young lady that went missing out in Ash Fork, Arizona. And I got the case file. I FOIA'd it. I got the case file. I actually broke the whole file online. It was the only, I was the first person to do that. And, I went through it, and then I just literally kept going through it. And I passed it to a friend and said, look, I've looked over this. I've looked through all the information. Is there something maybe you see here that's different? And they did. Did you look at this? Did you look at this particular person of what they said, or this particular this piece of video? Did you see that, in the corner, or this photograph, or whatever? And it does work.
It happens to me just when I write stories, right? So I'll be working on a story, and I'm notorious. People are like, "You said you were going to publish that yesterday," and I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't quite get there yet," because half the time, new information's coming in, but the other half the time, I'll start writing the story, and it's not. I'm 3/4 of the way through it, and my theory changes, and I say, "Oh, this is one piece I didn't have." I'm working on a story now where I have people all over the country that are coming to me and giving me their perspective. And I wasn't involved in the original case that they're following, and I don't have the perspective that I need to make judgments about what happened in that case. But I'm learning about the people, and I'm starting to say, okay, I've got basically 3 or 4 groups of people, and they each are coming to me with a different story.
Yep.
And now I got to try and find the consensus in there. Like, that's important
to
get other eyes, because people come to it with unique perspectives and unique information. You have no idea what somebody, especially when in a case like Molly Bish, where it's on the line, you don't know what some of the people in Hampden County know about that case that maybe the people in Worcester County don't, so give them a shot,
Yeah. And I mean, even if you just look at like some of the most on-running cases, like I'll just take like the Zodiac killer. You know how many people have probably looked at that case over the years and just kept looking and said, hey, we found this piece of information or this. And I think there's a new documentary actually on Netflix about that right now. I mean, there's always something on that, but it's all these different officers that come into the department, investigators, and they just keep passing the case to see if they can get, some specific finality to it. But
And it's not ideal, right? We all wish that we had these cases that were, they're on video. I'm advocating in a case. I'm not even going to talk about what it is.
Yeah.
I'm advocating in a case here in Connecticut right now where literally the person was on a FaceTime call. And so that there was another person that actually, there was an eyewitness over FaceTime to the crime that occurred. And so then when you see a situation like that, you're like, I wish they were all like that, because then you have it. But the truth is, a lot of these crimes, especially the ones that are crimes of passion or serial killer, serial abductor, serial things like that, they're trying not to get caught. So they're not, we don't have the information up front that we need. We wish every case was like that, because the further you go away from it, the harder they are to solve. But in some of these cases, there's some hope. So,
right. And that's like a really good thing about, talking about having cameras and stuff in there's cameras everywhere now, I mean, let's look at what the the incident there that just happened with the CEO in New York. I mean, they had videos and photos, and and that helps. It helps. Everybody's always watching. There's always going to be a camera somewhere.
It does, and I don't think people understand. Actually, that's all I want. We could put a huge dent in this, because what they really need to do is just give us access to your systems and your technology and get out of the way, because you watch shows like I watch all those, the whole FBI series of shows there, and you watch those shows and you look at their war rooms, and you look at the things that they have. I know it's TV, but I hate to tell you, the kind of video analytics that the government has at their disposal now are incredible, especially in cities like New York, where you can literally, it will take a day, but you can track the person's movements through every, traffic cam and private camera they have access to, and all the municipal cameras, and they're able to weave these networks together.
I knew Scott was going to say this.
Except and I agree.
And that's the funny thing too, and I'll just add to it. We're going on and saying, "Oh, the camera's everywhere." I just did a Freedom Information Act request because I wanted to see what I could get, and I wanted it was Karen Reed related. I wanted all of the intake videos, the body cam videos, any video to that case. You know what those motherfuckers did? They sent me a list. We have all this video. Okay, they gave me the list, but they said, but because it's an active and ongoing case,
right,
you're not gonna get it. I'm like, you motherfuckers. Like,
thanks for letting me know what I can't have.
Let me know. Yeah. James, thanks for letting me know.
And there are some of these places that they still don't have body worn cameras, and it's unfathomable to
everywhere.
Me. They need to be everywhere, and honestly, even from a pro police perspective, because frankly, you only inverted cameras. You have you have this thing where there are now countless examples of where body worn cameras have been used to help police officers who've been accused of a crime or accused of misconduct, or let's just be real. Gone are the days where it was okay for the cops to, when they're bringing a suspect in, to stop on the side of the road and lump them up a few times before they get into the sally port. We don't need to police like that anymore. And cameras are the best protection for everybody involved.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. 100% agree. All right. You want to get into the Sean stuff that just recently happened? I know you've talked about a lot about Sean. I've had some run-in with Sean. Turtle Boy just recently had some more run-ins with Sean. So it's funny. I'm seeing a lot of this on socials about everybody getting kicked out of Sean's group, and Aiden tweeted about it the other day. He said, "I officially been denounced." I love this. He goes, "You are no longer to be allowed in Sean's group if you support my work, because the mods have taken a vote. They will not tolerate you reading or liking my journalism or show. You must dislike me and preferably post about your dislikes for me in the comments. You must obey."
Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing, because that's what Sean says about TV all the time. You must obey. I am your daddy.
And me and you.
Yeah.
He said it about all of us. I can tell you, on more than one occasion, you must obey. That was actually, Sean, he never should have said that about me, because when he said that about me, he lit a little bit of a fire in me that I said, are you kidding me? Like, I have tweets that are still on Twitter that are posted on my wall where I've called Aiden Carney a scumbag. Like, I have tweets and they're still up. I had made a little compilation. I sent it to the other day. We were laughing. And you know who never asked me to take those tweets down, by the way? Aiden Carney. Not one. And now I leave them up because I think it's funny. It's good measure. But don't tell me that I obey. It's a common thing that we hear. It's the criticism that I get, which is, you're just here to defend Aiden Carney. And I say, no, you know what? I'm here to defend victims. And when you try to put somebody in jail for a crime that they didn't commit, that sounds an awful lot like what's happening to Karen Reed. It sounds a lot like what's happening to Aiden Carney. When you get the government involved with a troll mafia out there to try and invent crimes that don't exist, to me, it's not even a close call. I'm very happy to advocate for Aiden Carney in that situation all day long. I don't like everything the guy has said. I do think his humor is underrated in terms of, the trolls get mad and half the time he's joking. As I've gotten to know him personally, I think he's a pretty decent guy.
He's been every interaction that I've ever had with Aiden, he's always been very nice to me. It's very cordial. It's quick most of the time because I know he's super busy. I don't bother him. I don't want to bother him. But every single time I have had an interaction with him, hey, how are you? How you doing? Your show is great. And he's really lately done a lot of sticking up for me, and I really have to commend him for that because he he always goes into why are you fucking attacking BLT? I mean, the guy's a good guy. Like, he's just trying to help out. Or why are you coming after Mike, the young jerks? Like, what has Mike done? Mike, so
the funny thing is I tend to be pretty controversial, right? And he tends to be pretty controversial, but he's right. I've had these conversations with him privately. It's kind of funny, like, why are you going, you're not controversial, and that's not in a bad way. You are controversial.
I'll say some things here and there.
No, and if you're a corrupt government, right, you're controversial in the fact that you're going to go after them. Yeah. But it's not like you dive into the drama, and it's not like Mike Crawford dives into the drama, or for the most part, I think you both do a fairly good job of trying.
We take our shots here and there. We pick our spots.
Whereas I try to go in and battle.
You're right there
as much as possible. And I can tell you, every time I do, especially if you see me invest time in it, like I did in that Sean story, it was almost 7,000 words, right? And every time I do that, it's because I'm advocating for somebody specifically, not just the greater good. It's because, in the case of the Sean story, that dude went after his own people. And not only that, but if Sean was not ready for prime time. Sean was not creating a YouTube channel and doing all this. It was those people that got him to do it in the first place. Mm-hmm. They are solely, and this is why what we see happening now, he's got some little fledgling group on Facebook. They kick out more than half their members because they're not allowed.
I have that badge of honor.
I got pre-kicked out, obviously.
So I wear the Sean badge of honor. I got kicked out along with Aiden. That's a pretty good crowd to be into, and yourself, Jason. So we all got kicked out.
I got pre-kicked out. I looked for the group. I'm like, he must have deleted it. I can't find it anywhere. I don't know what's happening here.
Bixby says she doesn't think she's kicked out yet. Yeah, just remain anonymous, but they will hunt you down. Believe me, they'll figure you out.
No, I'm still in the group. I'm just
saying. Oh, you are there.
Well, I'm not there, but
yeah.
Somebody's there.
Somebody's there under that.
Somebody's there. I think what they need to realize is that, especially when it comes to Facebook, I barely am ever on Facebook.
Sure.
But I used to only be on Facebook, and I like to go into meme groups and make inappropriate jokes and all kinds of things. Yeah. I've probably got 14 Facebook accounts because I was always suspended. So I was always creating a new account, and some of them are funny and they're a playoff on my own identity. And other ones, you're never going to see me coming. You're never going to know it's me. And I'm in every one of your groups. I can tell you that. So if you would, so Critical K, just so you know, your anti-Karen Reed group there, where you have in your heading, you're basically telling people to create kindness and not conspiracy theories. I'm in your group too. So the point is that you're not going to do anything on social media that other people aren't going to see. But at the end of the day, I can see how some of us are more controversial than others. It always surprises me when they come after you guys.
I love this. Lexus Taillight Teeth says, but Proctor's fired. I can guarantee you. And I was just talking to Jason backstage before we went on. We were in the green room. We're talking about this. And I always check every couple of days with my very, very close source. And I just say, what's the status update? What does this mean? And they're like, he is suspended without pay. That is his status.
It's so easy. I was telling you before when we talked about it. If Sean came out, this, first of all, let's be clear. This has nothing to do. Sean's thing that looks like it's because he was embarrassed about Proctor being fired. It's not the cause of all this drama. This drama has been planned, and
well, he wanted to be the man. He wanted to be the man.
He wanted to be the man, and it didn't start on No Mercy Monday. It started way before that. Yeah. But if Sean came forward and said the decision has been made to fire Michael Proctor, no word yet on when they're going to execute the decision.
Yeah.
nobody could have said a word to him. It was impossible. It would be impossible for anyone to come back and say, you're wrong. But he said something that was ridiculous and not true. And he got called out on it, but that's not what he's mad about. Come on.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
Aiden tweeted about it. I tweeted about it. That opened the door for him to come after us. And that, we were talking about this earlier in the green room. If you come after someone hard after you've put something out there, I don't know. It tends to be bullshit because you're trying to double down and say, no, I'm the law enforcement guy. And because I said this, it's true. Well, let's hold some facts to it. And Sean got really angry about it. And that's when he started attacking. But you know what? The most beautiful thing that came out of it, I feel like Trump right now, most beautiful thing that ever came out of it, I donned the name BLT and everybody loves it. So
I have to tell you, it literally is a go-to. It's a staple in my house. We have probably once a week. We make the best fancy BLTs that we can. And I didn't really know you well, and I instantly warmed up to you once they started calling you BLT.
It's
I'm
the
like,
greatest thing.
There's something about this guy that I never noticed before, but I think I like him.
And I love it. I can just go into the other, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I go into the other Creators Jacks and I go, BLT is here, and everybody just starts lighting up. I mean, it's funny.
It's great.
It's great. It's a great thing.
I do the same thing happened to me when I was on Aussie Insider and Kate Peters trolls came in, and in the chat they said I was gay. So I looked straight in the camera and I said, I'm gay. And they cut it up and use it. And I love moments like that. I don't care at all. I just had one on Mike's where I was talking to Auntie Deb and I made a grinder joke. And I don't care that I always tweet now. If I tweet about the topic, I always call myself a heterosexual gay man, because you're not gonna get me with those little insults. Like, I don't know where you, I'm 52 years old. You know what I mean? I went to elementary school. I don't know if you know this, but kids pick on each other. My friends and I, no one is going to come at me as hard as my friends do. My friends and I come at each other every day. I'm an expert. I will have an insult battle with anybody, any day, at any time. And if you get me, I'm going to laugh.
Yeah.
I want you to win, So it's all ridiculous. But I can tell you that back to what I was saying about these people with that basically made Sean, they suggested that he do a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. They built the whole thing for him. I don't know if anyone knows this, but Sean is not a technical genius.
No. And I laugh and he goes, oh, my studio. I'm like, you're in your bedroom with a fucking green screen and a microphone. Stop saying your studio,
Right. Just like I'm sitting in my basement at my work desk and the city of Hartford spire is not coming up out of my head, even though it looks like it every time I'm on camera there.
Oh, look at this. Breaking news. Let's see. Turtle Boy just dropped an article about an officer I used to work with arrested for child sting, and shocking engrossed me. Wow. Everybody go check that out after the show.
Yeah, I'll definitely want to see that too. Yeah. And, that's really interesting, right? Because what we heard about Sean was that he was leaving. He was stopping. He wasn't going to talk about Karen Reed anymore.
No, it was over. It was, no more Turtle Boy, no more Karen Reed. It's done.
And he's never talked about anything else since. But he was going to go. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. He was going to go and investigate one of these rings, a human trafficking ring. Let's just say it that way.
Yep.
And in my DMs, he told me I was going to be so proud of him. It was, I think I'm going to write a book or do an article just on my DMs with Sean, because they are something. It's amazing. He's looking to me for some kind of weird approval.
Yeah, it's validation.
It really is weird. He was mad and I was talking to him, this stuff. I was there. I never criticized him for what he did on that Monday. I went on and I said, I don't feel the same way about those people that you do. Had a perfectly adult conversation about it. I checked in on him the next day. Hey, how are you holding up? People are talking about our episode,
Yeah.
And I was fine until he just kept going and going and going and attacking his own people and attacking you guys and doing all of this. And I got to the point to where but it still went on behind the scenes for another good week before I publicly addressed him. Because I was saying, hey, you're headed in the wrong direction. We got to stop this. I don't know what you're doing. I understand you're mad, but I think that and I was convincing him because he was starting to release a little bit of information about what he had. And I was convincing him, you're being played. Listen to me. There are people coming to you with information. He talks about that mofo Monday. He got this secret grand jury report, which was the admin chat logs from the Free Karen Read Facebook page. I already had a source send me the story that the mod went directly to the Mass State Police. They looked at the file and they said, yeah, there's not really anything incriminating here. There's nothing we can do with it.
Yep.
And they sent them away.
Yeah.
And it was after that they brought that file to Sean and said it was Tully's file. Guess what? Brian Tully has nothing to do with this case at the moment and never will again, probably. But you have the situation. It was Tully's file and it was going to be this and it was all of these things.
Kept saying, I got the file.
The problem is if he was running an op, that's one thing. And he'll try to play it off later like he was. He believed it. Yeah. And I said, listen to me. He didn't tell me who was involved. I told him. I said, this is the person that took the file and went here. Wait, how do you know that? I know that because I know what happened. I know the story. And so I tried really hard to talk him down off the ledge and to say, look, this is why you're wrong. You're relying on this information from these people. But once he directly got involved in coming after his own people and communicating and working with Kate Peter, that was it.
That's it.
I don't care how you feel about Aiden Carney. I never do. I don't care how you feel about me. I don't care how people feel about you. Yeah. At the end of the day, there's room for everyone to have their opinions and still believe that Karen Read is innocent and still believe that Karen Read, didn't kill John O'Keefe and that she's being railroaded. All of that is fine. What you can't do is you cannot work with directly with Kate Peter and say you're free Karen Read. I'm sorry.
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
You can't work with the person that is trying harder than anyone on the planet to imprison. And if you can overlook her trying to imprison Karen Read because she wants to imprison Turtle Boy and you're okay with that, then you have a real problem with your principles.
Yeah, and he embraced it. He went on air and embraced it and put out I just had to offer the other side a handshake and listen to them. No, you really don't. Like, you really don't. And I think he got into a position where he knew he was starting to get outs and he was losing subscribers by the second. And he had nowhere else to turn. So he said, where am I going to go? Who's going to support me on this? And they reeled him in. And they just went, come over here, Sean. We'll talk to you.
Well, I can tell you, like, based on the timeline, I have a pretty good timeline in my head of all this happened. When he went on that appearance on Kate Peter, where he said, it's just a handshake. I'm just going to talk to people on the other side. Yeah. They were already full plotting together. Like, this 100%. Was not
come on.
It wasn't this. It wasn't this. Oh, I just went over there and they gave me this information. Yeah. And Kate played him like a fiddle, a fiddle, a complete moron. And he's still in bed with the people that participated. Amy DeAngelis, who is the mod on the Free Karen Read Facebook page, and all of these people, they're still there. And there's still people on our side that think that I don't know or think that we don't know who are working with Sean every day. We know who
I know who's Sean.
Yeah, me too.
Sean.
I think you and I might have even had a conversation about that. But
we did.
At the end of the day, you can't. Sorry, there's no coming back from that, and he's seeing it now because he the only reason he has to keep tightening his group up and he has to keep kicking people out and he has to keep doing that is people don't buy it anymore.
Yeah,
that dude has no credibility. He reminds me of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at a Kevin Lenahan live stream. I popped by it the other day, and sub 500 people, sub 300 people. Sometimes he doesn't crack 100. Rogue yesterday, I went in, there's 87 people.
Yeah.
Like, guess what? The people know there's not a market for the nonsense.
Well, garbage. And look at, and you got to think though too, look at Kevin, all those appearances on Court TV when he was, kind of, they were doing the fun battle with him and Nick Rocco. And he had so much exposure during that. You would think his platform would have had like 50,000. So it didn't even move the needle.
Well, what a moron for not being able to capitalize on national TV exposure. Nick Rocco doesn't even have a platform, and people listen to what he says.
People were just all over like, Nick, you're a rock star. He was on the radio. I mean, it was great.
I wasn't the one that originally played it, but I created a meme. It's like my favorite meme of all time. It's a GIF, of Kevin, kind of like he's like not. It's when Nick Rocco, he wasted him one night, and Kevin like kind of laughed because he had to, but you watch the frown go away from his face. I'll tweet it at you later because
Yeah,
it's my
yeah.
favorite. It's my favorite. I made it and I gave it to somebody else to play, and then but I could. It was less than a day till I had to start using it myself because I was like, no, this is too. It's too amazing, and I use it every once in a while now because it is. He's got like a laugh on his face and he's nodding. It was my favorite clip from Court TV.
Uh-huh.
I immediately clipped it. I sent it to Nick Rocker. I'm like, yo, you got to look at this. Like, you got to see what just happened.
You saw when I got him with the Earth is round. The Earth is round, right? Did you see that?
No, I didn't, but I definitely want to.
All right, let me pull that up real quick. I do have to stop in a minute because I got to head out. I have dinner plans, but let me pull this up and we can watch this. We'll end after this. But just going back to to Sean real quick, and then we'll wrap up about 5 minutes. Looking at Sean, and we were talking about this. I think what happened was he was hoping that Aiden was going to go away for a long time. He was going to step in and be the man because, I'm the officer. I'm the guy. People should be watching me. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not Melanie Little. I'm not Mark Betterow, but I'm the guy. I did it. I did it. And it's that whole ego thing. And obviously that's not what happened. Sean sabotaged himself.
It really from an operational standpoint, again, at some point we're going to go in and I will come up with some of these messages because they are every day on him. I hit like a movie ending line, like the "I'll be back," like every single day. And at one point I actually started to feel bad. Like I started to feel bad, and I'm like, am I just like beating on an old man? Like, what am I doing? But then every day he'd come back and you didn't even put a glove on me. All of your limbs are laying on the ground and you're rolling away because you know what I mean? I'm like, we didn't put a glove on you. What are you talking about? Like if you went swimming, they're going to call you Bob because you're just going to float in the ocean because you have no limbs.
Yeah. Let's play this. This is great. This was really good. So I was down there with Mazda Media during the trial. God, when was this? 4 months ago, August 9th. No, this is a hearing, August 9th, 2024. Here we go. Check this out.
Did you originally believe that she was innocent before you changed your mind? Is that
Yes.
true? Okay.
Well, let's put this way. I lean that way. Okay. Because
Then he fell off the fence.
So the evidence that came out was for me, as far as was Turtle Boy's article on April 18th of 2023, right, last year. And in that first article, there were things that I thought were a little bit absurd, like the idea of 11 people in the house staying quiet, or the idea of putting someone to die out on your own lawn didn't really make sense to me. However, 227, I'm like, if that's true, then something happened, right? So I kept asking questions, but because I didn't know nothing about data back then, I had never studied forensic data or anything like that, so I was like, it must be just true, right? But then we got to the first hearing, maybe in May or June, where Adam Lally said, no, the state disputes that, and we have our own independent expert that said there was no 227 search. So now for me, I'm like, all right, now it's 50-50, it's up in the air. I got to start digging harder into the evidence, which I did, and what I found was what seemed improbable before in terms of timelines, in terms of the opportunity to tamper with the vehicle and plant evidence, now became close to impossible. There just wasn't an opportunity to do it. The main pieces were found at 5:45 at the crime scene. There was a news truck there setting up for an hour. There was the CERT team from the state police. That was all at 5:45. And the earliest that I thought back then that the SUV could have been towed there, because we knew it left at 4:18, thanks to the images that Karen gave Turtle Boy. We knew that the earliest it could have got there in the storm was maybe 5:15, and we now know that it got there at 5:31 and didn't pull in until 5:36. That left no time to tamper with that evidence. And for me, understanding the timelines was how I knew that there could be no conspiracy. I'm not connected to the other side. I don't have any cops in my families. All I cared about was the truth. And that's still all I care about.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you believe the earth is round? No, I'm serious.
No, do you? I mean,
absolutely.
This really seems like the flat earth side of things.
I'm
You
just
guys
asking
reject
Do
evidence.
you believe that the earth is round?
The earth is spherical.
Okay, then how do you deny ARCA?
All right, ask Brian. It's Brian, right?
Yeah.
Brian, ask it. But
you know who I am.
ask. But
Come on, Dad. You know who I am.
I'm trying to be respectful.
I know.
Ask,
You know who I am.
ask the question in a respectful way.
I did.
All right. No,
Do you
but
believe that the earth is round?
that's not respectful. All right. I'm happy to clue you in and
We're
answer the
talking about
question and make an
physics.
argument for you if you want.
About physics. So if you deny that the earth is round,
Do you have a physics degree?
No, I don't, but you don't either. But you just said as I start looking into the forensic science, so all of a sudden you're a forensic science major?
The ARCA guy, let me answer. The ARCA guys are absolutely.
We're not asking about them. We know about them. We're asking about you.
He just asked me about the ARCA guys.
Yeah, do you believe them?
No.
Are you serious?
Would
You
you like-
deny physics?
Are you going to answer? Are you going to give me a chance to answer? If you're going to ask me questions, give me a chance to answer. Okay. All right. Do you want me to answer or not?
Of course.
Is that really what you want? Because everybody's going to keep interrupting.
You
All
go
right.
in circles. Answer
Come on, Kevin. We're
The ARCA got the engineers from ARCA are absolutely 100% qualified. Yes, they are probably some of the best in the world. That company is absolutely, that's what they do, is accident reconstructions. The issue is credibility. Okay, they were not telling the truth. They were acting like defense witnesses, and the proof of that is the fact that they did not get the vehicle data. They didn't ask for it. The feds didn't give it to it. This is like having a pathologist do an autopsy without the body. It doesn't make sense. You get the vehicle data.
So
They didn't get it.
Hang on.
They have on their website an article published in 2021 that shows they are experts in tech stream data, but yet they didn't ask for it. So they had no vehicle data. How could they possibly know? So they're
We're the military.
they're setting up tests, right? Let me just
Yeah, go
finish
ahead.
up real quick.
I
then
want to
I'll
ask
let
you a
go.
question.
Okay.
Follow-up
They're
question.
setting up a test where they're making up a gun to fire a cocktail glass. All right. Don't you think it'd be important for them to know the speed of the vehicle? The only way to know that's physics. That's
Okay.
physics, brother.
What do you
Okay.
think about the
If you
curve
want to
on the
know,
road, though?
let me just finish up. If you want to know the speed of the vehicle, the only way is with the vehicle data, and they didn't ask for the vehicle data, so they were never after the truth. Never.
So hang on 1 second. I got a follow-up question.
Yeah.
So you don't believe ARCA, but your reconstruction is
You
correct,
gotta go
right?
to either side.
Which
You're blocking
reconstruction?
the
Your
sidewalk.
video
I'm
that
sorry,
you made.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's go.
We got booted by the state police. So. But I said, your reconstruction. That's what it is.
And you know what? Kevin has the vehicle data, and he still hasn't correctly interpreted it one
I
time.
know.
So it's
It's crazy.
unbelievable.
It's crazy. Jason, it's been a pleasure. I want to do this again. We got to get up here and do another panel. We'll do this again sometime. But I really
I love
appreciate you. I really appreciate you jumping up on the panel today. I've had such a great time.
Yeah, me too. And whenever you want, I'll come back whenever. I'm happy to even. I did announce that I am starting my own YouTube channel.
Yeah, of course.
And but I plan to be a frequent guest on other people's channels, even when mine's running, because I really enjoy meeting new audiences and getting out. Everyone's kind of got their own commenters, so I want to get out there and meet as many people as I can. And I look forward to seeing you, down in Dedham or
Yeah, of
Canton
course.
or
And if
wherever.
you're ever down this way, we'll get you in. We'll have you live. Come sit in the studio and hang out. I'd love to do that.
I love it too. Sounds great to me.
Cool. I just want to do an advertisement. Tomorrow night, there's going to be a Spaces on Twitter. It's Lacey Jane. That's her weekly Twitter space. I'm going to be on there for a little while as a guest. I think Jason's probably going to pop on there at some point. And I think it runs from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can follow that. And Lacey's Twitter is, I got to get her Twitter handle here. I'm probably not going to be able to grab it.
I think it's Lacey J Meeks.
Yeah, it's at LACEYJMEEKS. So please follow that. Go over and head out and support that. I'll be jumping on later on in the stream. We're talking about Enrique Delgado-Garcia and Karen Reed and a lot of other different cases. So thank you all for being here again. That's Jason, not Hailey. Check him out on X, and I appreciate your time today. It was such a fun stream to go through a lot of this and talk through it. And we'll do this again soon.
Sounds great.
Again soon. Awesome. I'm going to hit the outro. Everybody have a great afternoon. We'll be back soon. Talk to everybody. Have a great, blessed day. Stay dry out there if you're in Massachusetts. There's a lot of rain going on. And we'll see you soon. Bye.